Welcome back to the deep dive. We sift through the noise, find the signal, and give you that crucial understanding you need. Today, we're tackling something huge. The human brain, this ultimate learning machine, and its increasingly tangled relationship with AI.
Yeah, it's really more than just a relationship now, isn't it? It's almost like looking in a mirror. I mean, when you think about the scale, 86 billion neurons, trillions of connections. It's this dynamic, messy system.
And that messiness is the point, right?
Yeah.
Traditional tools just can't keep up.
Exactly, they're overwhelmed.
So that's our challenge today. We're diving into the brain's, let's call it a superpower, plasticity, its ability to rewire itself. And our mission here is kind of threefold. First, how AI and neuroscience are working together, the synergy. Second, the shared way learning actually happens in biology and in silicon.
The core mechanics.
Right. And third, this is the really interesting bit for me, how using modern AI, especially generative AI, is changing how we have to think, this metacognitive challenge.
And that's the meta theme, isn't it? What some sources are calling the mirror effect. It's not just AI as a tool to study the brain anymore.
Okay.
It's acting like a cognitive mirror. It makes us, the people using it, really aware of how we think, how we set goals, how we learn. It's basically demanding more self-awareness from us.
Hold on, let's dig into that for a second. Why now? Why specifically with generative AI? We've had computers helping us think for ages.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the difference is the ambiguity and, frankly, the power of the output. Old software did what you told it, a calculation, a database query. Very clear input, clear output.
Deterministic.
Right. But Gen AI, you give it a fuzzy prompt, and it generates pages of fluent, plausible stuff. It looks good. But is it right? Is it what you really wanted?
So the burden shifts back to you.
Completely. The AI is almost implicitly asking, so, did I guess your vague goal correctly? And that forces you to stop and think, wait, what was my goal? That's metacognition right there, thinking of your own thinking process.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly. Let's jump into section 1 then, the biocomputational blueprint. AI as the brain's accelerator. Why do we even need AI for modern neuroscience? What happened to the old ways?
Well, they just hit a wall. Neural data is unbelievably complex. It's what we call high dimensional.
You mean?
Meaning millions of things happening at once, neuron firing patterns, gene activity, blood flow changes, all across different time scales, milliseconds to years.
Yeah.
Your standard statistical methods, linear models, they can't see the patterns in that noise.
Too much data, too many connections.
Exactly. They're designed for smaller, simpler data sets. They miss the subtle, nonlinear stuff. You need something built for finding patterns in that kind of, well, beautiful chaos. And that's where deep learning comes in.
So AI becomes the essential tool, the only thing powerful enough to sift through those trillions of connections. Let's get specific. Start with space structural scans, like MRI or PET. How are CNNs, convolutional neural networks, acting as this microscopic detective?
Okay, so CNNs are really interesting because they were actually sort of inspired by how our own visual system works, processing information in layers. They use these filters and pooling techniques.
Mimicking the visual cortex.
Pretty much. And that makes them incredibly good at spotting subtle spatial patterns, things in scans that maybe even a trained eye might overlook, especially consistently over thousands of images.
Can you give us a real-world example, something making a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. Think about Alzheimer's disease. One of the very early signs can be this really subtle thinning of the cortex, the brain's outer layer.
Hard to spot reliably.
Very, especially early on. But a CNN trained on thousands, maybe tens of thousands of scans. It learns to pick up on minute changes in texture, density, thickness with incredible accuracy. Some studies show them hitting over 90% accuracy in detecting these early signs.
90%. That's better than just matching human experts, isn't it? That's potentially finding it earlier.
That's the key. Finding it early enough to potentially intervene, maybe slow the progression before major cognitive decline sets in. It's a huge shift.
Okay, so that's space, but the brain's not static, it's electric. Let's talk time. Milliseconds of activity from EEG or MEG. Here, the sources mention RNNs, recurrent neural networks, as the time traveler. What makes them good for that kind of data?
Right. So if CNNs are about snapshots in space, RNNs are about sequences in time. They have this internal memory, a hidden state that lets them keep track of what happened previously in the sequence.
So they have context.
Exactly. They understand the flow. That makes them perfect for analyzing these ongoing brain signals, looking for patterns that unfold over time like oscillations or, well, predicting events.
And the big one there is predicting seizures in epilepsy. That sounds revolutionary. 30-minute warning the sources mention.
Yeah, the potential is enormous. And some systems have achieved really impressive accuracy in labs, up to 90% predicting a seizure maybe 30 minutes out. That's enough time for someone to take medication, get to a safe place.
But I sense a but coming. If they're that accurate, why isn't this a solved problem?
Well, it's the classic lab to real world challenge. The signal is noisy, and every person's brain is different. So you get issues with false positives.
Predicting a seizure that doesn't happen.
Right, which causes anxiety, maybe unnecessary medication side effects, and worse, false negatives.
Yeah.
Missing a seizure that is coming. That's obviously dangerous.
So the deep dive continues on refining that signal-to-noise ratio, making it reliable enough for someone to, actually trust it day to day.
Precisely. It's about moving from high accuracy in controlled settings to high reliability in the wild. We're getting closer, but it needs to be incredibly dependable. That 30-minute window is life-changing, but only if you can trust the alarm.
It's important to stress this isn't a one-way street, is it? AI helps neuroscience, but the brain inspired AI in the first place, this bidirectional loop.
Oh, absolutely. The influence is profound. The whole idea of artificial neural networks, the layered structure, that comes directly from studying how the brain, like the visual cortex, processes information hierarchically. Simple features first, then building up complexity.
Like CNN's mirroring vision.
Exactly. And think about learning. The brain's reward system, dopamine pathways, trial and error. That's the blueprint for reinforcement learning algorithms in AI.
Where the AI learns by getting rewards for good decisions.
Precisely. It's mimicking that fundamental biological drive. And then there's this really exciting frontier, neuromorphic computing.
Trying to build hardware that acts like neurons.
Yeah, trying to replicate the brain's incredible energy efficiency and its way of communicating with these electrical spikes. Our brains run on, 20 watts? Like a dim light bulb, the biggest AI models need megawatts, power plant levels of energy.
So neuromorphic chips hope to bridge that gap.
That's the dream, building chips that compute more like biology, much more efficiently.
Okay, let's quickly touch on the direct impact on people's lives, beyond the models and diagnostics.
Two huge areas. First, brain-computer interfaces, BCIs. This is where AI is absolutely critical.
For people with paralysis, for instance.
Yes, their brain might still be generating the intention to move, but the signal can't get through. BCI hardware picks up those noisy brain signals.
And the AI translates.
The AI decodes them in real time.
Yeah.
It learns to filter the noise and identify the specific neural patterns that mean move the arm or grasp the object. It's incredibly complex signal processing.
Translating thoughts into action for a prosthetic limb, basically.
Exactly. And we're seeing amazing results in trials. People controlling robotic arms with multiple degrees of freedom, feeding themselves, manipulating objects, regaining independence that was unthinkable just a decade ago. The AI is the essential bridge.
That really brings it home. It's not just code, it's restoring function.
Yeah, and the second area is precision medicine, especially for neurological disorders like Parkinson's, MS, Alzheimer's. AI is dramatically speeding up drug discovery. By crunching massive data sets, genomic data, protein interactions, clinical trial results, AI can identify potential drug targets, screen millions of compounds virtually, and predict which ones are most likely to work against a specific disease pathway.
Cutting down that incredibly long R&D time.
Exactly. What used to take maybe a decade and cost billions, AI can potentially shorten to months or a couple of years. It helps researchers focus their efforts much more effectively.
That power, both diagnostic and therapeutic, leads us perfectly into Section 2. We need to understand the core mechanism that makes both brains and AI learn. Plasticity.
Right. Neuroplasticity. If the brain's the ultimate learning machine, plasticity is its operating system that's constantly updating itself. It's the brain's fundamental ability to change its wiring, its connections, in response to experience.
It's how we learn and remember, physically changing the brain.
Precisely.
The sources break this down into 3 types, based on how and when it happens. Let's clarify those. First is experience independent.
Yeah, this is the baseline wiring. It's driven mostly by genetics, happening very early, even before birth. It sets up the brain's basic structure, the major highways. It doesn't need specific experiences to happen. It's the initial scaffold.
Okay, then comes experience expectant plasticity. This one sounds like the brain is waiting for something.
It is. It's fascinating. The brain sets up certain circuits that expect particular inputs from the environment during a specific limited time window, a critical period.
Like vision.
Vision is the classic example. The visual cortex is wired up expecting visual input early in life. If it doesn't get it, say because of congenital cataracts, those circuits don't develop properly. Even if you restore sight later, the brain might struggle to process the information because that developmental window closed.
So use it or lose it during that critical time.
In a sense, yes, for those specific expected inputs.
And the third type, the one that stays with us.
Experience-dependent plasticity. This is the lifelong learning mechanism. Every time you learn a new fact, practice a skill, form a memory, your brain is modifying connections based on your unique experiences. This is what makes us individuals. It never stops.
Okay, now the crucial leap. How does this biological rewiring connect to how an AI, an artificial neural network, learns? You have synapses strengthening or weakening in the brain?
Long-term potentiation, LTP for strengthening, long-term depression, LTD for weakening.
Right. What's the AI equivalent?
It's the adjustment of weights and biases in the network. Think of a connection between two artificial neurons. The weight on that connection is like the strength of a biological synapse.
So when we learn something, a synapse gets stronger. When the AI learns,
It increases the numerical value of the weight between the relevant artificial neurons. The biological principle, neurons that fire together, wire together, is basically implemented as an algorithm that adjusts these weights. Learning, in AI, is finding the right set of weights.
okay, functionally similar. But how does the AI know which weights to adjust and by how much? Biological learning feels, well, fuzzier, distributed. AI seems more targeted.
It is definitely more targeted, computationally speaking.
Yeah.
It relies heavily on two key things. First, a loss function.
Which is?
It's a mathematical way to measure how wrong the AI's prediction was. It calculates the difference between the AI's output and the actual correct answer. It quantifies the error.
So it tells the AI, you messed up by this much.
Exactly. Then it needs a way to fix that mess up. That's where backpropagation comes in, usually combined with an optimization algorithm like gradient descent.
Okay, unpack that. Backpropagation.
It's a clever algorithm that calculates how much each weight in the entire network contributed to that final error. It propagates the error signal backward through the network's layers.
So it assigns blame, essentially.
Sort of, yeah. It figures out which connections were most responsible for the mistake. Then gradient descent uses that information to nudge the weights, little by little, in the direction that will reduce the error the next time. Repeat that thousands, millions of times.
And the AI gets better and better, more plastic.
Right. It's an iterative process of optimization, constantly refining those weights based on the error signal.
But is that really how our brains learn? Does our brain precisely backpropagate an error signal across billions of neurons? That seems computationally neat, but maybe not biologically plausible.
That's a fantastic point and a major difference. Biological learning is thought to be much more, well, local and global. We don't seem to have that precise end-to-end backpropagation mechanism. Instead, we have neuromodulators like dopamine that act more broadly.
Like a general, hey, that worked well, or oops, that didn't signal.
Kind of, yeah. It reinforces successful pathways more diffusely. This difference is actually why current AI, while powerful, is so energy-hungry. It achieves plasticity through this very precise, computationally intensive backpropagation. The brain's method is messier, perhaps, but far more energy efficient. It's one reason neuromorphic computing is trying to find alternatives.
Okay, let's make this concrete with those machine learning examples. The first one was regression predicting house prices. How does that show plasticity?
So in that experiment, the AI's goal was to minimize the error, right? Often measured by something like mean squared error, MSE, how far off its price guess was.
Okay.
As the AI trained on more and more house examples, you saw the MSE steadily go down, epoch after epoch. That decrease is the AI optimizing its internal pathways. The weights connecting features like square footage or location to the final price prediction were getting progressively better tuned.
More efficient processing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the sources draw a really neat analogy here to a biological process, myelination.
The fatty sheath around nerve fibers.
Right. Myelin acts like insulation, speeding up signal transmission between neurons. When we learn a skill well, the relevant pathways in our brain often become more myelinated, making communication faster and more efficient.
So the AI reducing its error rate is like the brain adding myelin, both making the processing pathway faster and more effective.
That's the analogy. It's optimizing the connections for better performance. Whether it's adjusting a software weight or wrapping an axon in myelin, the underlying goal is improved efficiency and accuracy.
A shared principle of optimization.
And you see the same thing in the classification example predicting mobile phone price ranges. The AI learned to strengthen the connections between features like, say, RAM size or camera quality and the expensive category, while weakening irrelevant connections.
Just like our brain strengthens connections in areas like the hippocampus or amygdala when we form strong memories or learn associations.
Precisely. It's strengthening the pathways that lead to correct classifications, pruning the ones that don't. It's a computational echo of biological learning.
This idea that the machine learns like us, it forces us to look inward, doesn't it? Which brings us straight to Section 3, the metacognitive challenge. What happens to us when we interact with these learning machines?
Yeah, this is where it gets really personal. Using modern Gen AI, especially the powerful ones, puts a much higher demand on our metacognition.
Our ability to think about our own thinking.
Exactly. It's not like using a calculator where the process is clear. Gen AI is often a black box.
Yeah.
Its power and occasional weirdness force us to constantly monitor and control our own thought processes while using it.
The sources mention two core metacognitive skills needed: monitoring and control.
Right. Monitoring is your self-awareness during the task. Am I understanding this? How confident am I in the AI's output? Is this approach actually working? Is the AI's answer plausible?
Checking yourself and the AI.
And control is the action you take based on that monitoring. Okay, I'm not confident, so I need to verify this fact.
Yeah.
Or this prompt isn't working, I need to change my strategy. Maybe I need to break the problem down differently. Or maybe just stop using the AI for this bit.
Knowing when to steer or when to hit the brakes.
Precisely.
One of the biggest problems highlighted is the burden of prompting, the explicitness trap. We think talking to an AI is easy, but getting what you really want is hard work.
It really is. Especially for complex, fuzzy tasks, like draft a marketing plan. It's huge and vague. To get a good result from the AI, you have to do the heavy lifting of task decomposition.
Breaking it down into small, logical steps for the AI.
Exactly. You have to provide a sequence of clear, specific instructions. The sources call this non-diegetic prompting. You have to step outside the story or the content you want and become the director, managing the AI's process instruction by instruction.
And people find that hard.
Very. Because it forces you to switch from thinking creatively about the content to thinking logically about the process and the instructions. It's a different kind of thinking.
And often the real struggle is that we haven't fully defined the goal ourselves, right? The AI forces us to confront our own ambiguity.
That's often the core issue. The prompt fails because the user hasn't clarified their own objective. The classic, I don't know exactly what I want, but I'll know it when I see it, doesn't work well with Gen AI. It needs you to be explicit. That demand for explicit goal definition before you start is a major metacognitive lift.
And then there's the confidence problem. The AI's output is often so fluent, fast, well-written, comprehensive.
Dangerously fluent sometimes. Our brains have this shortcut, a heuristic. If something is processed easily, if it looks polished and arrives quickly, we tend to assume it's correct and high quality.
Processing fluency equals truthiness.
Kinda, yeah. So the AI spits out this beautiful text instantly. Your brain goes, wow, that looks smart. And here's the crucial part. That fluency not only inflates your confidence in the AI's answer, but also in your own ability to judge that answer.
So you become less critical, less likely to double-check.
Exactly. You feel overly confident because the generation felt so effortless. Why scrutinize something that seems so obviously right? This is where errors creep in.
And this leads to what the sources call unproductive interaction patterns.
Yes, it's like a cognitive trap. You see users, especially novices, exhibiting Dunning-Kruger-like effects. They trust the fluent output too much. So instead of realizing the AI is wrong or hallucinating and using their metacognitive control to, say, do a quick web search,
they just keep tweaking the prompts.
they keep trying to coerce the AI, maybe rephrasing the same flawed prompt over and over, trying to force the AI to produce the right answer it clearly doesn't have. They get stuck arguing with the tool instead of fixing their own approach or query.
Trying to fix the AI instead of their own thinking process.
That's it. They fail to monitor their own strategy's effectiveness.
And this extends to workflows, right? Using Gen AI changes how professionals work, sometimes adding more cognitive load by messing with planning. The coding example was striking.
Yeah, that's a great example. AI coding assistants can be amazing, but they can also tempt developers to jump straight into generating code snippets before they've done the high-level architectural thinking.
Skipping the planning stage.
Right. The AI makes it easy to generate code quickly, so they dive in. But then the cognitive load shifts heavily to debugging, trying to integrate these possibly flawed or inconsistent snippets, constantly switching context between the AI's code, their code, the overall design, which they never fully solidified up front.
So the AI saved time on initial typing, but cost much more time in integration and debugging because the metacognitive planning step was short-circuited.
That's often the case. It disrupts established metacognitive strategies for managing complexity, sometimes for the worse if you're not careful.
So the AI is this powerful mirror. If our own planning, self-monitoring, or goal setting is weak, using these tools makes it painfully obvious.
Painfully obvious. It really forces us to confront the gaps in our own cognitive processes. The more capable the AI, the more explicit and rigorous our thinking needs to become.
Which leads us nicely into Section 4, Future Frontiers. If AI is showing us our metacognitive weaknesses, can we design it to help us improve? Build smarter scaffolding.
That's definitely a key direction.
Yeah.
How can AI systems not just do things, but also help us think better while using them? One major area is explainable AI, or XAI.
Making the black box less black.
Exactly. If the AI can give you some insight into why it generated a particular output, what data it relied on, what its confidence level is that helps you, the user, calibrate your own trust and monitoring, it offloads some of that metacognitive burden.
So you know how much you need to check its work.
Right. Beyond just transparency, future systems might actively provide metacognitive support,
How would that work?
maybe through design choices. For instance, making the AI's limitations or uncertainty more visible, zeneful design, they call it. Or the AI could proactively prompt the user for reflection. Are you sure about this assumption? Or have you considered alternative approaches here?
Like a helpful cognitive coach built into the interface.
Kind of, or allowing users to set parameters, like saying, I need a highly confident answer versus I'm just brainstorming. And the AI adjusts its output and perhaps its level of self-explanation accordingly. It adapts to your metacognitive state.
Okay, shifting back to the brain itself. AI analyzing neural data in real time is pushing therapies towards being much more personalized, these closed-loop systems.
Yes, this is incredibly exciting. The closed-loop system is the key. Think about adaptive deep brain stimulation, DBS for Parkinson's.
Instead of a constant signal.
Exactly. Standard DBS is usually just on, delivering a fixed stimulation. But Parkinson's symptoms fluctuate. An adaptive AI-powered system monitors the brain's electrical activity in real time, detects the specific patterns associated with, say, tremor starting.
And adjusts the stimulation on the fly.
Instantly. It ramps up stimulation only when needed and maybe dials it back when symptoms subside. It's constantly listening and responding to the brain's state.
Like a thermostat for brain circuits.
That's a great analogy. It maximizes the therapeutic benefit while minimizing the side effects you might get from constant, unnecessary stimulation. It's truly personalized medicine, a real-time dialogue between the device and the brain.
And this idea of using AI to work with neuroplasticity extends beyond disease, right? Into learning and cognitive enhancement.
Absolutely. We're looking at cognitive augmentation through things like neuroadaptive learning platforms.
AI tutors that read your mind? Well, almost.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Imagine an educational system that uses EEG or other sensors to gauge your cognitive load, your attention level, maybe even frustration or boredom in real time.
And the AI adjusts the lesson.
Yeah. If it detects you're overloaded, it might simplify the material or slow down. If you're bored, maybe it introduces a new challenge or changes the format. It adapts the teaching strategy based on your real-time neural and cognitive state, leveraging experience-dependent plasticity more effectively.
Tailoring the learning experience to the individual brain state, moment by moment.
And you can imagine similar AI-guided training programs, perhaps for older adults, designed to target specific neural circuits involved in memory or attention, helping maintain cognitive function longer.
This all sounds incredibly powerful, which inevitably brings us to the ethics. We need guardrails, decoding thoughts, influencing brain activity.
The ethical considerations are massive. Cognitive privacy is probably top of the list. If AI can interpret our neural signals with increasing fidelity, what does that mean for freedom of thought? How do we protect that inner space?
Can we protect it?
We need robust frameworks and technologies. One important tool here is federated learning.
How does that help protect brain data specifically?
Okay, so instead of sending all the raw, incredibly sensitive neural data from, say, thousands of BCI users to a central server to train the AI model.
Which creates a huge privacy risk.
Exactly. With federated learning, the AI model is sent out to be trained locally on the user's device or maybe a secure local server at the hospital. Only the updated model parameters, the learned weights, essentially are sent back and aggregated centrally.
So the raw brain data never leaves the local environment.
Largely, yes. The learning is decentralized, protecting the raw, identifiable neural signatures. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a crucial technique for privacy preservation.
And the other big ethical challenge, bias. AI learning from data inherits the data's biases.
A huge concern, especially in healthcare. If AI diagnostic tools or treatment algorithms are trained predominantly on data from one demographic group.
They might perform poorly or even dangerously for other groups.
Absolutely. An AI trained mostly on male brain scans might miss early signs of a disease that presents differently in females. Or algorithms might underperform for certain ethnic groups if they were underrepresented in the training data. This could massively exacerbate existing health disparities.
So ensuring diverse representative training data isn't just good practice, it's an ethical imperative for equity.
It has to be foundational. Bias detection and mitigation must be built into the entire AI development lifecycle, especially in neuroscience and medicine.
This has been a really deep dive. Let's try to quickly summarize the main threads we've pulled. First, AI is now essential for making sense of the brain's staggering complexity, enabling breakthroughs in diagnostics, like spotting early Alzheimer's from scans, and real-time prediction, like seizure warnings.
Second, we saw this fascinating parallel. Artificial learning, the adjusting of weights in an AI, fundamentally mirrors biological plasticity, the rewiring of synapses and pathways in our brains. It's optimization in both silicon and tissue.
And third, using modern Gen AI has created this mirror effect. It forces us users to become much more aware of our own thinking, our metacognition demanding clearer goals, better self-monitoring, and more adaptive control strategies.
And looking ahead, the focus is on making this interaction smarter and more beneficial. Developing explainable AI, building metacognitive support into systems, creating personalized closed-loop therapies like adaptive DBS, and using AI to truly augment learning and cognition.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. Perhaps the most profound consequence of this AI neuroscience convergence isn't just about building smarter machines or finding new cures. By creating tools that both demand and potentially support better human metacognition, we might be inadvertently building a scaffold for upgrading our own minds. AI, the cognitive mirror, could be pushing us towards unprecedented ways to enhance and optimize human thinking itself. The ultimate learning machine we're improving might just be us.